Hey guys, welcome back to Tech Insights with Dylan White. Hopefully everybody's Turkey Day was awesome and they got plenty of rest and are ready to hit the last month of the year on fire. If you guys are living in a rock, I am continuing the journey for my AZ500. Hopefully this is the last time we have to talk about it, and I'll just keep it renewed once I pass. We are on day 9. We're going to take a sample practice test. Got about 10 minutes. Let's see how many questions we can get through and see how far we get, and we will go over more Azure storage later in the Medium blog. So let's dive in. So of course, I'm on the homepage for the AZ500 exam, and we're going to take a free practice assessment button. All right, so question 1. We have an Azure app service named Web App. Named App 1, users are authenticating App 1 using Entra, plan to implement network security controls. For App 1, you need to ensure that only authenticated users from your corporate network can sign into App 1. Solution must not require configuration of VNet rules. Which 2 actions should you perform? So if we're talking implement network security controls, we're going to go ahead and say we're going to configure some type of app service authentication, and we're going to configure network conditions, right? 2 actions. Let's check the answer, right? So app service authentication basically is configuring exactly what it sounds. A service off, right? And Entra, right, is using conditional access. For those that don't know Microsoft Entra ID, it's also known as Azure AD in a previous life. We covered very much in the identity portion of this exam, so we'll also dive into it a bit on our recap, so stay tuned. Next question. All right, you are operating in a cloud-only environment. Users have computers that run either Win 10 or 11. The users are located across the globe. You need to secure the access with a point-to-site VPN by using MFA. What authentication method should you use? All right, so we're doing point-to-site VPN, authenticate by using ADDS, authenticate by using native Microsoft Entra, authenticate by using native Azure cert-based auth, or authenticate by using Radius. So we're using point-to-site VPN. That's key. Users are across the globe, right? So ADDS, you have to have it everywhere. Radius, same way. I think it's going to be cert-based or auth is my guess. I'm wrong. Entra is always the answer. Thing I love, if this is your first time here, is you always get to see the example, right? So one thing I always do is I always go look it up, what it was. And so with Entra auth, you can configure CA policy that grants access and requires MFA. Turn auth Azure VPN gateway acts as a pass-through or forwards the auth message back and forth between the auth server and connecting device. Cert auth does not include interactive authentication. So the cert auth isn't for MFA. I forgot that. So simple fix, simple to remember. Just a point-to-site VPN, Entra's the answer. All right, so next question. You have an Azure subscription that contains a NSG named NSG1. You can add a security rule named Rule1 to the NSG1 that will allow incoming RDP traffic. You need to ensure that the other security rules of NSG1 cannot override Rule1. Which pricing should you use for Rule1? NSG's, my guess is 100. 100 is usually the highest rule you can use. Check it. Priority setting for a security rule can be between 100 and 4096. So the highest priority you want, always want to be at that level 100. All right, so next question. You have a VNet that contains a Azure Kubernetes service or AKS workload and an internal load balancer. Multiple VNets are managed by multiple teams. You are unable to change any of the IPs. You need to ensure that clients from virtual networks in your Azure subscription can access the AKS cluster by using the internal load balancer. What should you do? There's one option here. So either create a private link endpoint on the VNet and instruct users to access the cluster by using a private link endpoint on their VNet. Create a private link service on the VNet and instruct users to access the cluster by using a private link endpoint in their virtual networks. Create virtual network peering between the virtual network slot connectivity. Create VPN site-to-site connection between the VNets to allow connectivity. I'm pretty sure it's going to be something with private link. Private link endpoint. So we're going to create a private link service or a private link endpoint. That's pretty much the 2 differences between the answers I'm thinking of. I think we're going to do a private link service, and then our users will do an endpoint. Okay. So private link service allows access from outside the VNet. So by using NAT. So if you guys don't know what private link is, I covered that on I think day 4 or 5 of this journey. So go back and take a look at the Medium blog to stay up to date on that one. If you guys want, I will go over it with the CLI and we can go in depth and do a whole demo. But that will probably be later next month. Let's go next. All right, so you have an Azure subscription that contains the following resources: 2 virtual networks. VNet 1 contains 2 subnets. VNet 2 contains 3 subnets. It's got virtual machines connected to all the subnets on VNet 1 and 2. Storage account name storage 1. You need to identify the minimal number of service endpoints that are required to meet the following requirements. VMs that are connected to the subnets of VNet 1 must be able to access storage 1 over the Azure backbone. Virtual machines that are connected to the subnets of VNet 2 must be able to access Microsoft Intra over the Azure backbone. So if you look at this, right, so virtual machines connected to the subnets of VNet 1 must be able to access storage 1 over the virtual backbone. VNet 1 has 2 subnets, so it's at least a minimum of 2. Virtual machines that are connected to subnets of VNet 2 must be able to access Intra over the backbone. Right, so my guess is 5. You need 1 for each. Let's see, might be 3. It's 5. So we would need 1 for each. That's pretty much math problem, right? What's the number of services are total, right? So what amount of subnets we have, we need an endpoint in each subnet. Next. All right, you have an Azure subscription that contains a VNet named VNet 1. You plan to deploy an app service web app named Web1. You need to be able to deploy Web1 to the subnet of VNet 1. The solution must minimize costs. Which pricing plan should you use? Right. So we want to deploy Web1 to the subnet, so it needs to be isolated, my guess. All right, only isolated plan can be deployed to a virtual network subnet. It's the easiest way to remember that. So the thing's asking, where can you deploy an app service to a subnet? One place you can do is isolated. So next, this will be the last question. You have an Azure subscription that contains a virtual machine named VM1 and a storage account named storage1. You need to ensure that the VM can access storage over the Azure backbone network. What should you implement? You ensure that VM1 can access storage over Azure. So we should, my guess is going to be a service endpoint because Azure backbone network, but it could also be private endpoint. So let's see. Service endpoints. Storage, anything that where it starts saying over the Azure backbone network, it's usually trying to subliminally get you to the point to where you're looking at service endpoints. All right, so that's that. Looks like we missed 1 question so far, so we're doing better. I'll probably do a full exam prep video this weekend, probably on Friday late night. So tomorrow we're going to go dive deep into identity and do an identity recap and do a video session. So see you guys tomorrow. Till then, have a great night.